So you're ready to upgrade the forks in your Honda Monkey just like me. Good idea. It's well worth it. Before you get into this job, be sure to check out the previous video to this, which explains all the tools you'll need to do the job properly, including some of the special tools that are needed. This is really important, I feel, as you don't want to get started on this job and then realize you don't have the right things. So to save time, I produced a video before this explaining all of that and more. Check it out. I think it's worthwhile. Okay, so here we have the contents of the Ohlins fork kit for the monkey, and there's 2 boxes that come in the main box here. There's 4 springs total. The reason for that is because one set of the springs is heavier than the other. So one set of the springs is for riders above a certain weight, and since this is metric, I am unsure of the 80 kilograms. I should probably know that, but basically you have 2 sets of springs. One's above 80 kilograms and one's below. So I know I'm more than 80 kilograms. However, the springs are not labeled in the box, so I'm not really sure which ones are the heavier ones and which ones are the lighter ones. But I'm assuming, since I ordered the kit, I believe with the heavier springs, it comes with those ready to go. So the dampening rods and the springs are together. So I believe these are the heavier springs, but I might throw them on a postage scale to see if I can get a weight. Obviously the heavier springs are going to weigh a little bit more. So I'm going to take all this stuff over and start the reinstallation process. Okay, for this step, it tells you to install the preload washer, preload sleeve. So there's a part of the directions, the Ohlins directions, that give you a sleeve combination choice from 10 millimeter all the way to 15, or 10 millimeter to 15 all the way to 20. So here's all the preload sleeves they give you. And I'm going to measure them out to see, just to make sure the combinations are what they say. So let's see. This is it's a 5 millimeter sleeve. The smallest is a 5, and the biggest is a 15. So to get 20 millimeters worth of preload, we're going to stack one small and the large one. So that's what I'm going to use, 20 millimeters worth of preload, because we're doing a lot of off-road stuff and jumping in certain occasions, and I want to use a lighter oil, so I don't want to heavy up the oil to get the fork stiffer. I'd rather use more preload. So we're just going to go ahead and do the 20 millimeters worth of preload. Okay, so this is important. You take the Ohlins washer that comes with the kit, and there's a chamfer in it, which means there's a beveled side and a straight side. Take the beveled side, that goes down towards the circlip. Okay, so we're going to want to tighten this to about 15 Newton meters, which is about 11 foot-pounds, which is tough to do on a Harbor Freight torque, so I'm going to upsize it a little bit to 15, but either way it's not that much. When you're filling up the oil, it's important to work the tube up and down, or else you won't be able to get all the oil in. There's valves in here that keep the air trapped, kinda, so just add incrementally while working the outer tube up and down to make sure that you're able to get your full allotment of oil. And the directions from Ohlins say fill the fork leg with 220 milliliters of oil, and the recommended oil is an Ohlins oil that I believe is 5 weight, and I had Bel-Ray 5 weight already from other projects, so that's what I was gonna go with here. So I mean, I don't think it's ultra critical what fork oil you use. These bikes aren't race bikes or motocross bikes, so you're just looking for a decent quality oil. Any Maxima, Bel-Ray, Honda oil should do in this case. So basically 220 milliliters is equal to the cc's on a ratio right measuring cup here. So it takes several rounds of working the shock up and down to get all the air out of there. You can kind of hear it. I keep going until I don't hear a lot of air swishing around in there. And that way you'll be able to get all the fluid in, and you want to try to ensure that you don't have any air in that assembly. So any air in there is going to cause different shock characteristics. Air compresses different. Air actually compresses, whereas fluid doesn't. So if you have air in there, it could affect the performance of the fork, obviously. So once you're satisfied with this and you don't hear a lot of gurgling around, the next step is to apply some grease to this O-ring up here, and then we tighten the top cap to the tube. Okay, so we're gonna leave that. We're not gonna tighten it all the way up here. We're gonna tighten it all the way when we get it on the bike, being that the triple clamps and the fork clamps are gonna hold it tight for us. So that's gonna be it for this fork, and we're gonna move on to the next one. I don't anticipate the next one being much different except for the valving. One valve is rebound, the other valve is compression, so I might highlight that, but otherwise we're going to move on to the next one, and we're going to get them all back on the bike. Okay, this next part's kind of tricky because since we installed the top cap, we can't clamp the shaft anymore to tighten this end piece. So we have to clamp the fork end into the vise. And we then have to reach down in here to access that 14mm hex on the bottom of that fork tube. My tool I have is not long enough. So this is where the directions say to use special tool 24641-01, which is like probably a 2-inch long hex key that fits in there that you can use to tighten it. So I borrowed these special tools from my buddy David Hugh at DHM, and he must not have had that piece, so I have to improvise. Since I don't have that piece, it's a Sunday, I really don't feel like running up to the auto parts stores around town to try to find it like I had to do for this one. I had this from a different project when I did the forks on my KX450, so luckily I had this on. However, this isn't going to plunge into there. It's not long enough and it's too wide. This is a pretty small hole in that fork tube. So I started looking around my shop and I found this 9/16 bolt, pretty long bolt here. And what I did was stack some nuts onto it to lock them right here. Luckily it's not threaded all the way through. And what we're going to do is this fits right into there, luckily. And we're going to try to get the 50 foot-pounds of torque that's needed to torque this fork tube down. So let's see how this works out. So I have it set to 50. Okay, good. I got it. That was one of those oh no moments where you realize you don't have a tool you need to do the right part of the job. When you're looking at the instructions, you're like, I don't have any idea what that's for. But when you get to a point where you can't do anything unless you have something that's going to work, you're kind of stuck. So luckily we were able to work around that. Obviously, if you're doing this job and you're watching this video, hopefully you're watching it before you're at the point of this part of the process and you have the special tool, or you're able to scrounge up a 9/16 bolt. So either go find yourself a really long 14mm hex somewhere, or buy the Ohlins tool. If you really get stuck, you can do like I did. And with that torque click, we're all done. Push down on those new forks, see how they feel. I know you're going to love them because I do. So thanks for checking this out. If you enjoyed the video, if it helped you out, throw me a like, a subscribe, or let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks again. We'll see you guys on the next one.